for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we begin tonight's meeting, we have a short announcement regarding the interpretation services for the Spanish-speaking members of our audience.
Buenas noches. Esta junta se transmitirá en español a las personas que lo requieran o que lo necesiten. Si usted necesita escuchar esta junta en español, por favor, marque al teléfono 312-626-6799 y ponga el número de la junta, que es el 608-130-5362. Le repito, para escuchar esta junta en español, marque el teléfono 312-626-6799 y ponga el número de la junta 608-130-5362. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. Due to the contingencies of the COVID-19 public health pandemic, MPS buildings are closed to the public, and this meeting is being conducted virtually. Board members may be participating from the Central Services building. In order to allow as much public participation as possible, this meeting is being broadcast on radio station WYMS 88.9 FM, via live stream on the MPS website and on the MPS YouTube stream, the links to which may be found on the MPS website on the broadcast page. We will now move to our items of business. As stated in the public notice, individuals who wish to speak were required to register in advance. I ask those waiting to speak to remain on the platform until you are called upon. Although we are on a virtual platform, we will still follow Robert's Rules of Orders, which dictates that all comments should be directed to the chair. Also, any questions or requests, including those from board members or the administration, are to be directed toward the chair, who will determine the most efficient way to address them. As always, written testimony will be accepted for transmittal to the board. Written comments may be submitted to the board via the Office of Board Governance, P.O. Box 2181, Milwaukee, Wisconsin 53201-2181, or fax to 414-475-8071, or email it to governance@milwaukee.k12.wi.us. Finally, for our listening audience, if you wish to access this evening's agenda items and attachments online, you may do so by visiting esb.milwaukee.k12.wi.us. Now let's begin. Madam Secretary, item 1.
Item 1 is an informational overview and public hearing on the 2021-22 Superintendent's proposed budget. This is an informational item, and although it has been noticed for possible action, no action is required.
Will the administration please present the item?
Okay. Chair O'Halloran and members of the board, Keith Posley, Superintendent of Schools. Thank you for the opportunity to provide information regarding the proposed 2021-2022 budget and listening session for public testimony. At this time, I will ask Martha Kreisman to provide some additional information regarding the ESSER funds. Martha?
Hello, Chair O'Halloran, members of the committee, Martha Kreisman, Chief Financial Officer. The Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act, also known as ESSER 2, will bring $225 million of reimbursed funding to MPS. In addition, there is the ESSER 3 funding that has not been given to the district yet. An application will be forthcoming in the fall, possibly, and that would bring about $506 million to the district. And we had much collaboration throughout the year concerning school reopening for in-person learning. Throughout the planning process, there were 5 work groups and walkthroughs. There were also several board meetings with community input. That input informed district cross-departmental planning groups that created the ESSER 2 plan. As you know, when that plan was submitted for your review in the past budget hearing, it went over budget. It went over the $225 million. So in order to provide you a plan that was balanced, we added a budget detail for tonight's meeting that for your review and questions and for community input. And we also took some of the planning where we were over budget and put it in a column called ESSER 3. We are hoping at the end of these budget deliberations, when the board comes to an approval point, that they would also approve ESSER 2 funding. So you would be approving this column labeled ESSER 2 or any amendments that were provided to that plan. And thank you for your attention.
Does that conclude the presentation, administration?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So we're going to move to committee member questions, and then we'll have public comment. I just wanted to notify committee members that we have 28 speakers registered for this evening. So we'll do one round of questions and then move to public testimony. Before we go to committee members, I did want to take one point of privilege as the committee chair and clarify with administration. I think it falls under strategic planning for next year, and I know we're going to discuss it, I believe, at a later date, but is the plan from administration's perspective to have a 5-day in-person plan for the fall and then a separate virtual option?
Chair O'Halloran and members of the board, one of the things that we're following our plan that we rolled out at the start of the pandemic in July that we introduced. And that plan, we had 3 phases. Phase 1 was a total virtual phase. Phase 2 is where we are right now. And our phase 3 is 5 days back in school with students. Yes.
Thank you. And I just wanted to clarify because I think it's important for our budget discussions, but also for our families, for their strategic planning, and for our staff members' strategic planning as well. So now I'm going to go in order with questions. Director Carr?
Pass.
Would you like to ask any questions of the administration before we move to public testimony and then on to the amendments?
Pass.
Okay, thank you. Director Garcia.
I just had a point of clarification. Administration mentioned that there was an updated handout. Is that different than what was given to us, the supplemental for ESSER, or is there a different document that we should be paying attention to?
Administration.
Chair O'Halloran, Director Garcia, members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. Thank you for that question. There is a budget detail that's an extra attachment to tonight's meeting, and it is updated compared to the supplement. I would say that the budget detail provides you more of a quick glance to what's actually being proposed for the spending of the funds, and provides a slight narrative as to what those items are. The supplement would provide you more narrative detail if you want to read more to get more information. But there are some changes in the detail, so I'm glad you asked that question. There were 5 library media specialists added, along with some books for those libraries where those library media specialists would be placed. There were, to help with some of the funding that we couldn't continue to do through the referendum, some of the expansions that we weren't able to fund, we were able to add that under ESSER 2 while moving some of the funding over to ESSER 3. And that was for 5 social workers, 5 guidance counselors, 5 psychologists, and I'd have to find the page so I can make sure I'm not missing one of those.
Nurses.
5 nurses, thank you very much. And So I believe that was the extent of the changes that were made in this document. Besides the shifting of some of the funding priorities over to ESSER 3, and most of that was where things had multiple years. The second and third year might have been shifted over to ESSER 3.
Thank
All
you,
right.
administration. That was helpful.
Thank you. Director Gokul Gandhi?
No questions.
Trouble unmuting here. Director Herndon?
Thank you. No questions, Madam Chair, at the present time.
Okay. Director Leonard?
No questions at the time.
Okay, we're doing pretty good here. Director Peterson?
I just wanted to add that one other detail was that there had been 2 restorative practices positions, and the detail in the change is that that's up to 5 now. So just so for people's information, and I'll pass on questions so we can get to the testimony.
Perfect. Director Simpson?
I will pass on questions as well.
And then we will go to Director Taylor.
I'll pass on questions so we can get to the testimony as well.
All right, thank you. Madam Secretary, do we have any public comment on this item?
Madam Chair, yes, we do have public comment on this item. I believe we have 28 speakers who have registered for this item. And if we are ready, we can begin the public testimony.
Yes, please.
The first speaker that we have on the platform to speak on this item is Chris English. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record. Okay, it looks as if Chris English is not on the platform. The next speaker would be Amir Randolph. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Okay. Hi, my name is Amira Randolph. Good evening, everybody. So I'll just go ahead with my testimony. I've always been a student of MPS, and throughout all the years, I have seen a lot of things that can be improved. Most of these things can be improved with the budget shift, which is exactly what we need. In some Oakland, California schools, some things are changing drastically. They are doing so many good things, establishing new installments for restorative justice, establishing community building, and they even support reentry of students after behavior incidents instead of suspensions and expulsions. They are helping with social and emotional skills with classroom circles and behavioral disruption, and that's only tier 1. If you visit their website, you'll find the tiers that they have set in place, put tactics like meditation and family group conferencing in place as well. All of these things that they are putting in order sound like necessities for a better, healthier school and making a safe place for Black and Brown students. When schools are healthy and building strong young adults, communities are healthy. My question is simple. If Oakland can do it, why can't we put some of these practices into place? Looking at some of the things MPS incorporates its money into, it's obvious that some of the budget is being wasted. For example, we are served food every day that students don't even eat because of how it tastes. When with enhancement, the food would not go to waste, nor would the budget money. With the fall coming up and us going back to school in person, this will be a perfect opportunity to make these changes. We could start all of these programs like they are doing in Oakland and then some. MPS should start using Oakland as a guide. So with the help of your advocacy, we can make these necessary changes happen for our community and within our district. So my ask today is that we divest from things that are not only unnecessary, but are harming our schools and youth and start investing in something that can make a positive impact on our community as a whole. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you. The next speaker on the platform is Jasmine Robertson. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
My name is Jasmine Robertson.
Please spell your last name for the record.
Roberson.
Thank you.
Good evening, all. My name is Jasmine Roberson, and I am an MPS alumni and a staff member at Leaders Igniting Transformation. I'm here to discuss the urgent need for more in-school psychologists, social workers, and for adequate restorative justice trainings for teachers and staff, as these are the people and practices that will change the trajectory of our schools and our community. Conflicts happen amongst children in all settings, especially schools. They sometimes include teachers and other staff. My fear is that next year, when all of the students will most likely be welcomed back into schools, more students will be getting suspended and sent home for these conflicts, misunderstandings, and breaches in behavior. Many of these students have endured traumas, and for most of them have had declines in their mental health due to COVID-19 pandemic, as we all have. Let's not ignore our children's mental health needs by simply removing them from class. They don't need isolation. What they need are the tools to push through these difficult situations and incidents. Money from the property tax referendum should have been allocated to hiring more of these mental health professionals in high school, in high-need high schools. Yet many of the students that I work with at LIT have reported that access to these people have even managed to decrease this year. And yet the number of safety assistants remains, as their budget is as well, despite the fact that metal detectors should no longer be maintenance. Money from this pool should be divested immediately and placed into mental health and restorative justice practices. There should be a district-wide coordinator and school-based coordinators in all of the high schools. Moreover, the criminal climate in Milwaukee seems to be growing. We are all familiar with how often cars are stolen and the growing number of high-speed chases and homicides taking place in our neighborhoods. In my neighborhood, gunshots and speeding cars are everyday occurrences, and I'm almost scared to drive in certain areas of the city and to leave my house, fearful of getting into accidents with speeding cars and cars that are not following traffic laws. My ask is that we start nourishing and investing in our children and their mental health and other conflict resolutions from young ages instead of policing them. And from there, we can begin to chip away at Milwaukee's crime culture. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker on the platform is Rania Ingram. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record. Okay. The next speaker on the platform is Lucas Weir. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record. Madam Chair.
Lucas Weir, W-I-E-R-E-R.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair O'Halloran, members of the board. As a teacher at Obama SCTE, I am speaking tonight on behalf of my students. Buried on page 884 of the MPS budget, we find the district improvement plan, which includes 2 lofty goals for attendance, and also a statement on discipline that reads, during the current school year, our school will reach proportionality in the percentage of suspensions and behavior referrals for Black students, especially for Black male students with an IEP, and continues to state that at predominantly Black schools, the school suspension rate should not exceed 5% of the district white rate. Today, I would like to speak in support of the demands put forth by Leaders Igniting Transformation, which call for a decrease in funding for school security by cutting the school safety operations budget and the Office of School Safety and Security budget each by 50%. In turn, we should increase the number of support staff beyond those accounted for by the referendum. MPS must create a 4-year plan to reach nationally recognized recommended ratios between students and licensed support professionals. The plan must prioritize staffing in schools with the highest need. In addition, we must implement robust restorative practices in MPS by, at a minimum, having a district-wide coordinator, school-based coordinators in all high schools, starting with those that have the highest rates of suspensions and referrals to law enforcement, and by providing funding for a district-wide training on restorative practices. This investment must come with a comprehensive implementation plan. Funding for this program should be baselined in the budget and not dependent on grant funding. In a district that perpetuates inequity through a racist, classist, and ableist enrollment policy at the high school level, we must consider the implications said policy has on individual school budgets as well, especially for non-select criteria schools. Select criteria schools are all but assured their enrollment number every year and can plan with it in mind. Our non-select schools must wait and hope
30 seconds
until 6th Friday, hoping we can meet our number, so we don't have to part with teachers, shutter classes, and drastically alter student schedules almost halfway through the semester. With this in mind, please prioritize our neediest schools when considering this budget. I would like to finish speaking in support of amendment number 7, put forth by Director Gokul Gandhi, to strengthen and expand the BLMA office and their work with Black and Latino youth. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker on the platform, Mendik Abdullahi.
Hi, my name is Mendik Abdullahi. My last name is spelled Abdullahi.
Thank you.
Yes, members are responsible for knocking on 600 homes and calling 8,144 people, encouraging them to support the referenda. We knock doors to ensure that students in every school will be able to have an art class, because involvement in the arts is associated with gain in math, reading, cognitive abilities, critical thinking, and verbal skills. Art learning can also improve motivation, concentration, confidence, and teamwork. We need the administration to prioritize making gains in securing certificate art teachers to every school, primarily elementary schools and Milwaukee North Side. Students have the right to a public school education. This is not undermining privatization. We need more guidance, counsel, and training professionals that can support students' mental health. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker on the platform is Colin McGinn. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Hello, my name is Colin McGinn, McGinn.
Thank you.
I am Advocacy Director for Hunger Task Force here in Milwaukee, and I want to thank the chair and the board and Dr. Posley for the important work you are all doing and working through ESSER 2. I wanted to talk today about two asks that we have. One is to make sure that MPS provides breakfast in the classroom to every student. That is the best model to ensure every student starts the day with a healthy meal and is capable and able to learn. And it improves the, the assurance that they will actually eat the meal. Right now, the second ask that we have and are pondering is an expansion of the after-school meal program through CACFP and providing either supper in the classroom or something similar to it. Right now, 2019-2020 data says that only 5% of MPS students who get lunch have a third meal or snack. And we believe very strongly that we can and must do better than that 5% number. We know MPS cares about what happens to students after they leave, because 5 years ago you invested over $1 million in the 7 Twilight Centers. So there is an infrastructure in place to implement a third meal through CACFP, and we are eager to partner with MPS to make this happen. We are happy to leverage our resources as well as the resources of our national partners. And I just wanted to also highlight the fact that in 1974, we were founded by a group of people concerned about the quality or lack thereof of food in Milwaukee Public Schools. That continues to be part of our vocation and our mission, and we look forward to collaborating with MPS in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker on the platform is Rebecca Acosta. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Rebecca Acosta, Acosta.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair O'Halloran and members of the board. My name is Rebecca Acosta. I am a junior at Ronald Reagan High School and a member of Youth Empowered in the Struggle. Yes, members and I are responsible for knocking on 600 homes and calling more than 18,000 people, encouraging them to support the referendum. Moving forward, we need to see the board follow through with the referendum reflected in the budget. We knocked doors to ensure that students in every school would be able to have art classes, and that promotes gains in math, reading, cognitive ability, critical thinking, and verbal skills. Arts learning can also improve motivation, concentration, confidence, and teamwork. From my experience, art has been my outlet to express myself and to creatively learn. We need the administration to prioritize making gains in securing certified art teachers in every school, and primarily elementary schools on Milwaukee's north side. Additionally, we need more guidance counselors and trained professionals that can support students' mental health needs. Students have been asking for mental health support because we need it. And now more than ever, mental health is becoming overwhelming for us. And as students, we need support for all schools. Finally, students have the right to a desegregated public education system that is not undermined by privatization. We have seen the resegregation of Milwaukee schools through privatization, while our Black and Brown students are in danger of a school to prison pipeline. I'm asking and counting on you as the board to act. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker on the platform is Raven Chappelle. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Raven Chappelle, Chappelle.
Thank you.
Chair O'Halloran, members of the committee, my name is Raven Chappelle, MPS alumni, MPS educator, and a member of Anti-Racist White Educators, or Are We Milwaukee. A friend of mine often says budgets are moral documents. This budget clearly states that we value performance over substance. Where is the morality in slashing the budget of Black and Latino male achievement under the guise of gender equity? BLMA can and should exist in addition to a group dedicated to the investment in the Black and Latina girls in our district. If gender equity were truly the goal, our district would give our young people 2 equitably funded groups, not one combined group, left scrambling to provide services for and build relationships with twice the amount of scholars. If gender equity were truly the goal, our district would be setting up a similar department dedicated to the achievement of Black and Brown gender nonconforming scholars. I support Director Gokul Gandhi's amendment to fully fund the work of BLMA and to start a similar group for our girls. Where is the morality in refusing to allocate COVID referendum funds towards hiring more nurses, counselors, psychologists, and social workers? It would behoove central office administration and school board members to listen to the student leaders in our district and throughout our city who demand that their schools be fully equipped to handle individual crises and interpersonal conflicts. We all know that our schools are not currently equipped to do so. Not only are our schools sorely lacking the aforementioned support staff, our previous board and current central office administrators have made it abundantly clear time and time again that they will not take a courageous stand in support of funding district-wide restorative practices training and mandatory anti-racist training for all staff, despite plastering the words equity and cultural relevancy all up and down this budget document and claiming to be committed to ending our involvement in the school to prison pipeline. There can be no morality hidden in hollow words. Morality is found in our actions. We have a lot to do and we need to do better. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker on the platform is Elizabeth Kosmak. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Elizabeth Kosmak, Kosmach.
Thank you.
Administration has failed to meet the demands of the workers that in reality makes Milwaukee Public School District a place where families and staff want to work and stay. We lose many students every year to suburban and private middle and high schools, and this needs to stop. This budget needs to return the funding to middle and high schools for Schedule E activities. Returning funding to these schools for after-school activities is what our students deserve. Many of our schools do not offer these activities like suburban schools because they do not have the funding. These activities and clubs draw students' passion and keep them engaged and coming to school. We will only have these programs when we commit to paying teachers for their extra time. When restoring Schedule E funding, we are giving our students in MPS what they deserve and telling them they don't have to leave. We want you to stay here. How do we hire and retain staff? By offering them 40 hours a week with decent pay and steps for all of our job classes. These members and workers are essential for running a successful school. They deserve the same respect as everyone else by being offered 40 hours a week. We are telling these people that work more than one job because we don't have the money to give you because we have to put it in another budget line. Workers need a freeze on health insurance costs for the next school year. Our frontline workers who kept the buildings running during the shutdown deserve hazard pay. They deserve that, and it is a shame that it's not addressed already. Can you imagine if administration had a detailed plan for reopening like they do for this budget, how less stressed educators would be right now? This is $1 billion budget. There are ways to use money into creating a budget that respects our students, families, and staff so we can all start, stay, and succeed in MPS and be MPS proud. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker on the platform is Angela Harris. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, Angela Harris, Harris.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair O'Halloran, members of the committee. I'm Angela Harris, first grade teacher at Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Elementary School, chairwoman of the Black Educators Caucus. Saying a budget is a moral document at this point feels extremely redundant and almost pointless. When I look at the overall budget, referendum, and ESSER funds, I see a low level, dare I say basic, commitment to achieving high academic standards, equity, anti-racism work, or addressing the discipline disproportionality in this district. Students have asked for a divestment from policing and an investment into resources that help them heal and are restorative, only to see $15 million allocated for alternative policing and safety measures that harm Black and Brown students. They've asked for referendum funding to be allocated for more mental health support, school counselors, social workers, and psychologists, only to see that denied as well. Programs like Black and Latino male achievement, which have produced student achievement results like increased attendance, decreased suspension rates, and higher grade point averages, have seen their budget decrease, which is why I support Director Gokul Gandhi's amendment to strengthen and expand BLMA instead of outsourcing their work to an outside agency from another state that doesn't know our children. Our students' social and emotional well-being is crucial after a pandemic, racial justice reckoning, and the rise of violence and reckless driving in our community. We need to ensure we aren't exposing them to what Dr. Dina Simmons calls white supremacy with the hug. Our district is committing $2.2 million to the adoption of the elementary, middle school, second step curriculum. When was the last time this curriculum was reviewed for cultural relevance and anti-bias? This budget is an opportunity to center our students, to put them first. We are almost doubling our per pupil funding. How can students, staff, and the community be certain that this budget's funding and other resources have been carefully established with an equity lens and will be dispersed with the racial equity lens? We can't, but we know that an equitable allocation of resources is paramount to district equity. This budget isn't it.
Thank you. The next speaker on the platform is Cindy Tenna. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record. Cindy Tenna.
There you go.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, it wasn't
Please
unmuted.
state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Thank you. Cindy Tena, Tena.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Cindy Tena, and I'm with Leaders Igniting Transformation. About a year ago, Minneapolis Public Schools voted to cut ties with their police department. Although they were motivated by the killing of yet another Black person at the hands of police, this did give other school districts the courage to do the same. We had 2 weeks to prepare for a rapid response plan to ensure that the resolution introduced by Director Phillips had enough votes and support. We organized a rally outside of central office and called on the community to contact the board. About 600 people attended our rally and about 800 people testified orally or via email. After hours of debating the resolution, there was a unanimous vote in favor of terminating the remaining contracts between MPD and MPS. 3 years after LIT was born, this still feels unreal. While I am happy and proud of the progress we've made, I know this fight is long from being over. Policing isn't only a profession, it is a mentality. And sadly, this is a mentality of many adults. Whether intentional or not, it is harmful to BIPOC students. Because teachers are the ones that spend the most time with students, it is instrumental that they, of all staff, are receiving the proper training and resources to implement and embody true restorative justice practices. If we want to reduce suspensions, expulsions, and quote-unquote behavior issues, we need to fully fund restorative justice practices, hire qualified coaches, and provide regular training for all staff, but especially teachers. Aside from restorative justice, our students need mental health resources, counselors, ethnic studies teachers, nurses with actual supplies, programs like the Black and Latino Male Achievement Program, and other things that have actually proven to be successful and have actually proved to help students. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker on the platform is Amy Nelson Christensen. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Good evening. Last name, Nelson, space Christensen.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair O'Halloran and members of the committee. My name is Dr. Amy Nelson Christensen, and I've had the privilege of supporting BLMA as a researcher since its inception in 2017 and serving on the team that wrote the district's equity policy 1.06. I'm also a proud school psychologist. I'm speaking tonight in support of Director Gul Kalgandi's amendment to the budget of BLMA and implore the board to resist the privatization of BLMA programming by contracting with Becoming a Man. As a board, you need to know that the results that Becoming a Man espouses are a sham. They are taking credit for Chicago Public Schools' systemic approach to increasing graduation rates through database decision-making, early warning data systems, and freshman programming. The reason why their students in Chicago demonstrated increases in graduation was because of CPS's systemic and equitable changes, not because of Becoming a Man's deficit-based program, and to claim credit for this outcome is disingenuous. Furthermore, their touted outcome of decreasing crime committed by students should give board members pause. Do we want to bring in a program that says, hey, our students commit less crime, when we all know that they are just playing on our implicit bias about Black and brown boys? Lastly, Becoming a Man has no evidence base. BLMA has 3 years of evidence that shows that the manhood development course that they created within the context of Milwaukee and the students we serve has an impact on factors that set students up for success for achievement, like school connectedness, self-efficacy, and racial and ethnic identity. This is why students who have participated in manhood development say things like, this course is the best class I've ever had, and this class should be offered in every school. We already have a program that is research and evidence-based and valued by our community. So why are we spending money on programming that isn't? I implore the board to see past the fancy marketing and reflect on whether you're buying into something that is playing on your implicit bias about Black and brown students. Our money is better spent on investing in systemic and equitable change, not more programming. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker on the platform is Ingrid Walker Henry. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Ingrid Walker Henry, WALKER-HENRY.
Thank you.
I am the Vice President of the Milwaukee Teachers Education Association. We have all heard the phrase attract and retain. It is mostly thought of in reference to educators, but attract and retain measures is what is best for our students too. Our students deserve the best educators. They deserve smaller class sizes. They deserve to have enough adults to provide for their academic and emotional needs. And our students deserve the opportunities we expect every child to have. I'm asking you to support the following attract and retain proposals for both students and public education workers. Paraprofessionals and CHAs are support professionals that are vital to students and schools across the district. For too long, MTEA has asked that paras and CHAs be offered 40 hours. Student support is needed from the moment students leave home to when they leave school. At the current time, these workers often start after the student day or leave before the students are dismissed. Students deserve to have the support they need throughout the whole day. One of the many lessons the pandemic has taught us is the need for substitute teachers. Since Act 10, the pool of substitute teachers has dwindled directly as a result of actions taken by previous boards devaluing their work. In order to ensure that we have the substitute teachers that we need, MPS must offer competitive pay to begin to rebuild our pool of substitute teachers. Last of all, I would have you refer to the document MTEA has sent to you regarding high school proposals and Schedule E funding. In that document, we have identified issues such as ESL grading, mathematics programs, elective offerings for students. Each item speaks to the need for reform in order to better address the needs of our students. In addition, a plan for MPS to provide all middle and high school students a baseline of care regarding enrichment opportunities was included. The district has gotten to the place where some students are offered a variety of clubs and resources while others are not based on the school size. It is past time to address this glaring inequity and make an investment in students at every school that will have a real and immediate impact on student experiences. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker on the platform is David Castillo. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
David Emmanuel Castillo, C-A-S-T-I-L-L-O.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair O'Halloran and members of the committee. I am currently the planning assistant for the Department of Black and Latino Male Achievement. I want to speak in support of Director Golkar Gandhi's amendments for our department, which is item number 7, as well, amendment number 7, as well as I want to stand in support of her amendment number 8 to have a woman and LGBTIA plus program in the district, which I think is very, very necessary. I also want to provide some information. When you look at the budget, being that it is a moral document, I want to point us to page 8. Page 8 says, thus far, the average attendance rate for students enrolled in the course, I'm shorting it up here, enrolled in the course is 87%, while the rate for the comparison group at 3 schools where the course is not implemented is only 82%. In addition, the average suspension rates are 2.6 and 14% respectively for the 2019-20 school year. There might have been a little bit of an oversight here or a little bit of some errors with typing, but this is what it should say. The statement needs to be corrected to say where the course is implemented. And I share that because what we did is we essentially compared kids. So that where we have the program at, the Manhood Development Academy, we took kids that are in the course and we compared them to kids at the same school that do not have the course. So saying that where it was not implemented is a little misleading. I also want to share that the comparison rates for suspension should read as follows. 2.6% average suspension rate for students enrolled in the Manhood Development Academy, whereas it was 14% for the comparison group. And something that was completely left out on this document is our grade point average difference. So it's a 2.0 average grade point average for students enrolled in the Manhood Development Academy course, whereas it was 1.5 for the comparison group. I think this is important information. This information is actually out there. It's public, it's visible. I know this because I run our website. I'm the communications and marketing guy for our team. And I actually encourage every board member to go take a look at our website. It's www.blmamps.com so you can see the groundbreaking work I think we're doing. Once again, thank you, Director Golkar Gandhi.
Thank you. The next speaker on the platform is Jemmy Williams. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record. Okay. The next speaker in the queue who is on the platform is Amy Miziaco. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Amy Mizialko, M-I-Z-I-A-L-K-O.
Thank you.
Chair O'Halloran, School Board Directors, and Superintendent Posley. I want to start off by recognizing the amendment that has been made for school psychologists and for school psychologists represented by PAMPS to ensure that salary increases that were promised for outside experience and not applied, that there is an amendment set aside to make good on that responsibility. And so MTEA is happy to stand in support with PAMS, and we are appreciative of this amendment. As president of the MTEA, representing over 5,000 public education workers, we want to make certain that our students are walking into fully staffed schools in August. Our students deserve that. And school board members and district administration have heard from many, many members of the MTEA and leaders of our Meet and Confer team about priorities that, as you heard from MTA Vice President Ingrid Walker-Henry, in addition to recruitment, attracting, and retaining, we also need to be certain that we are dealing with the issue of longstanding staff vacancies throughout the district that put our students at a disadvantage. Again, I will underscore the absolute necessity for allocating several $1 million for 40 hours for all job classes, specifically CHAs and educational assistants, as well as stabilizing the substitute teacher pool so that we can attract a strong subpool here in MPS.
Thank you. The next speaker on the platform is Crystal Ely. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Crystal Ely, E-A-L-Y.
Thank you.
I am speaking in behalf of my peers as an EA president of the Milwaukee Teachers Education Association who desire to work a 40-hour work week. I believe the last cost of this proposal given by administration was $11 million. I asked that if possible, we can get a breakdown of the cost of adding additional hours to EA's present hours. We're not asking for 40 hours for a whole 40 hours. We're asking for additional hours to 30 hours. 30 hours, it would be 10 additional hours. 35 hours, 5 additional hours. 32 hours, 8 additional hours to make 40 hours. And if that is something that we can't do or we're unable to do, can we do at least 3 to 4 EAs in the 2021-2022 school year by seniority in each school, at an additional 2 each year? I feel like this is not too much to ask, considering most schools don't have more than 6 EAs unless it's a high school. A lot of our elementary schools don't have that many paras or EAs and handicapped assistants in them unless they're a high school. It is also critical that we add the help that is needed for our students to help them thrive and receive the support they need through having enough counselors, psychologists, social workers to handle the caseloads of mental health, depression, stress,
30 seconds.
From the pandemic and the violence that we are experiencing in the communities that our students live in. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker on the platform is Chase Cornett. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record. Hello.
Hello.
Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Sorry, Chase Cornett, Chayce, Cornett, Cornette.
Thank you.
Hi, so I'd just like to demand that recruiting high quality teachers be prioritized. As a special ed teacher at MPS, I firmly believe that nothing else matters and that other core components of this budget that are really great are meaningless if we do not first focus on finding high quality educators. Some examples of this are professional development. This is not the answer to our talent problem. PD is falling flat on teachers who are already not meeting the baseline expectations of their job. And it's a waste of time and money to professionally develop staff to the bare minimum of what they should already be doing. Special ed, I work with my students to give them tools academically, socially, and emotionally, but oftentimes the progress we make is negated when they re-enter a gen ed classroom where a teacher isn't even teaching. Mental health supports, again, we need more of these. However, we need more mental health professionals, not just training and curriculum for teachers, because if we give a training or a curriculum to a teacher who's failing to teach daily or not in control of their classroom environment, these efforts won't reach students. And lastly, BLMA programming. This has life-changing measurable impact year after year and deserves more money and recognition for their work, which should not be outsourced to another city. But this impact could be even stronger if those students were in classrooms that also set them up for success. So much SEL progress is being negated when a kid spends all day in a class with a teacher who is unprepared, unqualified, and intellectually violent towards students. All of these initiatives' potential for impact are erased by ineffective teachers. Imagine what could be possible for existing teachers if we didn't have to spend time undoing the academic trauma that previous teachers have caused. And so if a classroom isn't a place where students are challenged and held to high academic expectations, then all these other supports in the budget will fall flat. I can't tell you how likely to fix this problem, but continuing to spend money and time on anything else will water down the impact of the important things in this budget. And so some ideas are more explicit recruitment of graduating education students at UW colleges, more comprehensive teacher rating systems that compensate teachers based on their classroom outcomes, and then more financial incentives to teach in schools with the highest turnover and vacancies and amount of uncertified teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker on the platform is Robert Hempf. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Hi, I'm Robert Hemp. My last name is H-E-M-P.
Thank you.
So, good afternoon, members of the board. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the students and the staff at Obama, SCTE, and students similarly situated across the district. Deep in the in the budget on page 884, we found the district improvement plan, which includes 2 lofty goals for attendance and also a statement on discipline that reads, during the current school year, our school will reach proportionality in the percentage of suspensions and behavior referrals for Black students, especially for Black male students with an IEP, and continues to state that at predominantly Black schools, the school suspension rate should not exceed 5% of the district-wide rate. Today, I would like to speak in support of the demands put forth by Leaders Igniting Transformation, which calls for an increase in the number of support staff beyond those accounted for by the referendum. MPS must create a 4-year plan to reach nationally recognized recommended ratios between students and licensed support professionals. The plan must prioritize staffing in schools with the highest need. In addition, we must implement robust restorative practices in MPS by, at a minimum, having a district-wide coordinator, school-based coordinators in all high schools, starting with those that have the highest rates of suspensions and referrals to law enforcement, and by providing funding for a district-wide training on restorative practices. This investment must come with a comprehensive implementation plan. Funding for this program should be baselined in the budget and not dependent on grant funding. In a district with vast inequities, equity can no longer mean more resources distributed evenly across the schools.
30 seconds.
The schools and the students who have the most needs will require the most additional staffing and support. In mind, we must prioritize our neediest schools when considering this budget and give them the staffing that they need to meet and exceed the district improvement goals. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker on the platform is Yeneliz Rosario. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record. Hello. It appears. Oh, there we go.
Thank you.
Okay. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Hello, my name is Yani Lisa Rosario, and my last name is Rosario.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you for hello. Hello.
Yes, yes, please continue.
Hit a repeat. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Yes.
State your name and spell your last name for the record.
Okay, do you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So my name is Yanidis Rosario. And my last name is Ros.
Is it possible?
My last name is Rosario. I'm calling because I just want to. Sorry. So do you guys hear me for sure?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I just want to emphasize everything that the young people are saying towards the budget, like the referendum, BLMA, and just supporting mental health overall. Lit does have a couple of demands, and I will read them out to you. One of them is to implement robust restorative justice practices in MPS by, at a minimum, having a district-wide coordinator. School-based coordinators in all high schools, starting with those that have the highest rates of suspensions and referrals to law enforcement, and providing funding for a district-wide training on restorative practices. This investment must come with a comprehensive implementation plan. Funding for this program should be baselined in the budget and not dependent on grant funding. This demand in particular is very similar to last year's our demands, but like a couple people have mentioned, these positions still have not been completely filled up, and if they are, it's very hard to tell for the community. I know that MPS did a lot of work to make sure that everyone knew about the referendum. So I would just ask that MPS does the same amount of work to make sure that the community actually has access to these resources that were promised. Another thing that we would like to invest in is to increase the number of support staff beyond those.
Thank you. The next speaker in the platform is Chris English. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Hello, my name is Chris English, KRISENGLISH. I just want to say good afternoon, school board members. I'm a sophomore at Vincent High School, and I'm here today to testify about why we need better programs for in-school and after school. While attending Vincent, one of the most frustrating things is not having enough programs for students that actually interest them, such as not having a social club that allows students to talk about their feelings, ideas, and thoughts on topics. Students should have the opportunity to have programs that interest their needs, wants, because these programs help build skills such as networking, social skills, life skills, all in one. I believe if students have something that they care about, such as better school programs, they'll be more willing to come to school, get better grades, and have an overall driven passion to be active in school. Ways we can advocate for these funds is by defunding safety, getting rid of tab officers, and the overwhelming cameras in the school. So I ask you, school board members, to implement these changes so students of color can actually thrive and benefit. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, it appears that is our last speaker on the platform.
Okay, were we able to connect? I think was it Renia Ingram? There was another speaker. Were we able to reconnect with that speaker? Or Jamie Williams?
The individuals that we have on the list were never on the platform, so they didn't log in. So
just wanted to circle back to see if we were able to connect with them. Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Director Herndon.
I recommend we take a 5-minute break before we proceed.
I will ask for a 5-minute break.
If there is no objection to the body, we can go to a 5-minute break by consensus. 1 second, let me just go to the gallery view. 5-minute break? Okay, sounds good. Thank you. The board will go to a 5-minute break by consensus. We will note the time. If you could turn your cameras off and mute your mics. Thank you. Heyer, please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Teresa Heyer, Heier.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, President Peterson, members of the board. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the students at Obama, SCTE, and students similarly situated across the district. Buried on page 884 of the MPS budget, we find that the district improvement plan, which includes 2 lofty goals for attendance and also a statement on discipline that reads, during the current school year, our school will reach proportionality in the percentage of suspensions and behavior referrals for Black students, especially for Black male students with an IEP, and continues to state that at predominantly Black schools, the school suspension rate should not exceed 5% of the district-wide rate. Today, I would like to speak in support of the demands put forth by the leaders igniting transformation, which call for an increase in the number of support staff beyond those accounted for by the referendum. MPS must create a 4-year plan to reach nationally recognized recommended ratios between students and licensed support professionals. The plan must prioritize staffing in schools with the highest need. In addition, we must implement robust restorative practices in MPS by, at a minimum, having a district-wide coordinator, school-based coordinators in all high schools, starting with those that have the highest rates of suspensions and referrals to law enforcement, and by providing funding for a district-wide training on restorative practices. This investment must come with a comprehensive implementation plan. Funding for this program should be baselined in the budget and not dependent on grant funding. 5 years ago at Obama, we were a pilot for restorative practices and started building momentum until our grant funding was cut. In a district with vast inequities, equity can no longer mean more resources distributed evenly across the schools. It must mean that those schools and students who have the most needs will require the most additional staffing and support. With this in mind, we must prioritize our neediest schools like Obama when considering this budget and give them the staffing they need to meet and exceed district.
Thank you. And Madam Chair, that completes our public testimony. In addition to the individuals who have called in, we have received 6 individual pieces of written testimony. 1 communication related to the school safety budget, 1 communication related to the proposed amendment number 2, and 4 communications related to proposed amendment number 7. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Committee members, is there any further discussion of this item? Going once. Okay, Madam Secretary, what is the next item?
The next item is item number 2, which is a work session and action on amendments to the MPS proposed 2021-22 budget. The recommendation is that the committee determine what actions it wishes to take on each of the amendments to the proposed superintendent's 2020 FY22 budget.
Thank you. At this time, we will hold a work session to consider board members' amendments to the proposed budget. As this is a work session and as is customary and as was publicly noticed, we will not be taking public testimony on this item. We will now consider amendments to the proposed budget, which are attached to this item. For each amendment, I will ask for a motion for discussion purposes. We will discuss and take action on that amendment before moving to the next one. Madam Secretary, what is the first amendment?
The first amendment is amendment number 1 by Director Leonard to better prepare students for college-level math courses by including a more interwoven combination of advanced math classes beyond a calculus focus. Offerings should include trigonometry, analytical geometry, and a strong emphasis on statistics. That is the intent of the resolution.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Does Director Leonard wish to make any comments?
A couple of them. First of all, The intent was well stated. I did look at the administrative responses. So really, it's really a point of question. Is this actually duplicative? Or do we still need this amendment? Or is this already taking place in our district in the first place? I hate to just add another amendment to something that's already taking place. So I'm not quite sure how to proceed with this amendment after I looked at the administrative response.
Perhaps we can move to administration's comments, and that would help bring some clarity. Would administration like to make some comments?
Yes, Chair O'Halloran, members of the board, Keith Fosley, Superintendent of Schools. Regarding Amendment 1 pertaining to advanced math courses, I would like to ask that Martha Kreisman provide an overview of the amendment, including the administration's recommendation. Also, we have the team here that is prepared to answer any questions in regards to this item as well. But to answer Director Leonard's question, yes, all of these things are happening right now currently in the district. Martha?
Chair O'Halloran and Vice Chair Leonard, Martha Kreitzman, and committee members, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. The administration wanted to lay out what's already happening in the district, but also that in the ESSER funding, there is additional funding proposed to expand on what's already happening. So there is in the new detail, there's $900,000 to expand the number of students that can take dual enrollment math courses. There's also funding set aside in ESSER to help with certification so that teachers can teach MATC and UWM dual enrollment math courses in the high school.
Okay, thank you. Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? Seeing no questions, what is the pleasure of the committee with respect to this item? Director Peterson.
I just had a question for Director Leonard. He had said he might withdraw it. What is his desire on this matter?
Yeah, if it's already being done without any further information where I have to look into it more deeply, there's no reason to really push this amendment forward. So yeah, I would take that amendment back.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Madam Secretary.
Members of the committee and Director Leonard, is it your intent to withdraw this amendment from the committee's consideration at this time?
Yes, at this time, I would like to. Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Madam Secretary, what is the next amendment?
The next amendment is Amendment Number 2 by Director Carr, is to separate the Office of Communications and School Performance, the Communications and Marketing, Strategic Partnerships and Customer Service, Technology and Strategy and Enterprise Initiatives are to report directly to the Deputy Superintendent. Contracted schools, equity, access and inclusion, research, assessment, and data will report to a chief.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Does Director Carr wish to make any comments?
Yes, thank you. So after conversing with constituents in the district, as well as district staff, faculty and staff, and then having a conversation with Superintendent Posley, I am going to withdraw the amendment for now, to allow the administration more time to strategize and create a comprehensive communication plan, an organizational plan that will respond to the needs and the concerns of district staff as well as constituents in the community. So I will withdraw it for now. And I do encourage any one that's listening to bring forth your concerns, ideas, and resolutions to ultimately be a part of this process to ensure that everyone's needs are being met and the concerns are being addressed.
Thank you so much. And then it looks like we can move on to the next amendment, please, Madam Secretary.
The next amendment for the committee's consideration is amendment number 3 by Director Carr, and that is with the intent to provide one-time hazard pay for the period of March 2019 to present to school-assigned secretaries in the same manner as it was provided to other school-based employees.
Thank you. Director Carr, would you like to make any comments?
So this amendment really came from our previous sessions where I just listened to individuals speak about their experiences during the pandemic and some of the struggles and risks that individuals took just to, show up and still perform in their roles. And so it was really a response to district staff, faculty, or secretaries in the district. I guess I wanted to get more clarification from the administration regarding the reasons for not supporting.
Thank you, Director Carr. Administration, would you like to give us comments or response, please?
Yes, Chair O'Halloran and members of the board, regarding amendment number 3 pertaining to hazard pay for secretaries, I would like to ask Martha Kreitzman to provide an overview of the amendment and the administration's recommendation. And then we also have Adria Maddalini here with us this evening, as well as Michael Harris, to answer some of the questions. But before Martha starts, I just want to let you know the criteria for receiving hazardous pay was the idea of those individuals that were right on the front line, those individuals which were the safeties, the food service staff, as well as food service staff and safety, which was on the front line right there passing out food in the heart of the pandemic, that they come in contact with people on a daily basis. They never stop working, and they were exposed with a number of individuals coming in and out of all of those stop, grab, and go sites. That's how the hazardous pay was awarded to staff. We had a number of individuals, administrators, secretaries, teachers, a number of people, the office staff here as well, that was in and out, but were not in the direct line of contact with people. So that's kind of how we laid out hazardous pay. Martha?
Chair O'Halloran, Director Carr, members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. The hazard pay that was provided for safety and school nutrition staff that was providing food at the stop, grab, and go sites went from March 18th, 2020 through May 22nd, 2020. And the administration is not in support of this amendment unless all groups that physically came into work between March 18th and May 22nd, 2020 would also be paid. And we gave an estimate of what that might cost. However, our current data system does not differentiate between an employee that was remote or in person on particular days or hours, so it would be difficult to do even for the secretaries. The district needs to concentrate additional funding received through ESSER on activities to increase student achievement and expand the ability to provide a safe, nurturing environment for our students.
Does that conclude your remarks then?
Yes.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to make questions or make comments or ask questions?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Given that this amendment is introduced by Director Carr with the administration's analysis, would Director Carr then either have another comment or have an additional question before moving on to other committee members.
Okay. Director Carr, would you like to make a comment or ask questions?
Question for clarification. So hazard pay was or was not given to any staff? I don't know if I heard that correctly.
Administration?
Hazard pay, Chair O'Halloran, members of the board, hazard pay was given to staff at the Stop, Grab, and Go sites, which was the school safety and school nutrition service staff. And then there was also hazard pay given to building engineers that had to come into the building during that particular time as well.
Okay.
Director Carr, do you have a follow-up? All right, that.
So the reason for not supporting the amendment is because the administration is requesting that if any hazard pay is given, it's given to everyone.
Chair O'Halloran, members of the board, yes, because we have defined essential staff that would receive hazard pay at that particular time. However, there's a number of individuals came in, but we made sure anyone, first of all, anyone that wanted remote and wanted to work from home could work from home. Any staff member that wanted to do that, except for the building principal. The building principal was there, but the building principal was in his or her office or whatever, was not interacting with people coming in and out of the building like the individuals at the Stop, Grab, and Go sites were. So that's how we distinguish between the two.
Okay.
Okay. I did see Director Taylor's hand, and I believe Director Gokul Gandhi, and then Director Peterson.
Yes.
Okay, Director Taylor.
Thank you, Chair O'Halloran. I guess I had a question, but more of a comment. Given when the administration said there was no way to track the secretaries or who was in the building, I guess I would, I don't know, even if we wasn't live, find that a little alarming. I know we've all been working overtime, that we wasn't keeping track of who was in the building or when. So I'm hoping that was maybe a miscommunication when that was stated and that we knew who was in and out of our school buildings. Also, from my understanding too, and I remember bringing this up before, that some secretaries was, I won't necessarily say mandated, but like strongly encouraged to be inside of their building. So I wanted to ensure that if they did want to be remote, they were able to. And in reference, when we say if all of the groups that worked would be able to receive hazardous pay, then what would be that group form? Because from my understanding, it was like the building engineers, the people that were working for the Grab and Go, because I was out at my buildings, and then also the building principals. So were there the only 3 sets? So just to go back, did we have some type of way of knowing who was in and out of our buildings to ensure that we was keeping control during a pandemic? Number 2, from my understanding, I also received calls that secretaries was strongly encouraged to be at work. And number 3, what was the departments or the people that were inside of the building besides those Grab and Go people, the building engineers and the building principals?
All right, administration.
Chair O'Halloran and members of the board. But what we mean by each individual that it was a part of the staff had to complete a remote work plan. So we have all of the remote work plans. However, and we also know we have a system of knowing who walked in and out of a building, but it would be from a camera system or whatever the situation may be. But what we have identified as essential is who had to interact with the public. And so, and anyone that wanted to be on remote, we allowed that to happen, whether that was the secretary or not. But the thing about it, and the building principal was the individual that had to be there every single day and in and out and throughout the pandemic. And so, but anyone else did not come in contact with the public. And so the ones that at the Stop, Grab, and Go that we paid additional hazardous pay to was those individuals that interacted daily on a daily basis with individuals in and out of that school.
Director Taylor, do you have follow-up?
Yeah, just for the third one, I just wanted to know what were the individuals or employees that were on that day-to-day basis in the school? Just
administration.
Chair O'Halloran, members of the board. One, the principal was there on a daily basis. Also, the division of technology was in and out of there pretty heavily because they had to get laptop carts together. But any of those individuals, they worked alone when they had to go in to do. And we had also waited, and it was at months that elapsed before they went in to clean and get the computers ready to go out. The regional staff here was in and out every day because they had to take supplies, packages, and things of that nature. All of the regional team in the Office of School Administration, the superintendent's office as well, was in and out. A large majority of the staff on the superintendent's team was in and out of buildings as well. And then at the end, we had secretaries that reported back. We had a list of the times and dates when every job class reported back. And I think they reported back on April, 2 dates, April 12th and April 19th or something. But we will get those exact dates. It's in the memo. And but some of those individuals still had the option of remote.
thank you, Chair O'Halloran. Thank you, administration.
Thank you. Director Gokul Gandhi.
Sorry, it was an accident. I don't have any questions.
All right. Then we have Director Peterson.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. I am going to encourage my colleagues to vote against this amendment. I think that from what I understand, the secretaries, many were not in the buildings. They were allowed to work remotely. And even those who may have come to the buildings, we have to keep in mind that the buildings were closed to the public. So, and I know that the stop and catch, the food and the printed manuals for education were by the door. People didn't come in and go through the office to get them. And so I don't see a reason to provide hazardous pay for that group, nor do I see a reason to expand it and include anybody who came into the building voluntarily. The cost, if calculated correctly by the administration, is quite high. I think we should think of other ways to provide safety in the future. Instead of looking back, let's look forward. Some districts, I'm not proposing it right now, but some districts and states are actually providing incentives for staff who get vaccinated as a way to try to get nearly 100% of the school staffs vaccinated. That's something I think we can consider. That I believe that would address some of these safety issues that are raised in this amendment. And it could also provide assurances to our parents who we want to recruit to come back to our school that we are taking the issue of safety in the future very seriously. So I recommend a no vote on this amendment.
Thank you, Director Peterson. Do any other committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? See no hands. What is the pleasure of the committee with respect to this item? Do we have a motion?
I move we postpone this until we're able to get a copy of the remote work plans that were submitted and determine exactly who were required to be in the buildings and who weren't.
All right. Madam Secretary, is that a motion we can move forward with?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, that is a motion to postpone until additional information can be provided. In the event that the administration would be able to provide that information prior to the board, considering its second round of amendments, this item could be postponed until that time.
Okay, thank
Is
you.
that the intent of the motion maker? To
Yeah.
postpone it until to a date certain?
Yes.
Okay, so Madam Chair, members of the committee, then this item would be postponed until May 25th, strategic planning and budget meeting at 5:30 p.m. That is the motion that is before the body.
All right. Do we have any further discussion on this motion? Seeing none. Just under the wire, Director Peterson.
And I'm going to vote no on this as well. I think that on the 25th, we're going to have a lot of amendments to go through, and I think we should deal with this one as is. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Will the secretary please call the roll?
On Director Carr's motion to postpone consideration of amendment number 3 to provide one-time hazard pay for school-based secretaries. Postponing this amendment to May 25th, 2021. Director Carr.
Aye.
Director Garcia.
Nay.
Director Gokul Gandhi.
Nay.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Thank you. Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Nay.
Director Seamson.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
And Chair O'Halloran.
Aye.
That's 6 ayes, 3 noes. The motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. What is the next item?
The next item,
or the next amendment, forgive me.
The next item is amendment number 4 by Director Carr, and that is to specify that proceeds from the sale of the Wheatley School building be used to fund shop classes for wood, print, and electrical at North Division High School.
Thank you. Director Carr, would you like to make any comments?
Yeah, so part of the motivation behind this is one more personal and near and dear to my heart. My grandmother had 13 children, and of the 13, 12 graduated from North Division. When I think of North Division's current state, the underutilization of the building, performing as it pertains to academics. I don't know if you all have had the opportunity to explore North Division School, but it is one of the most beautiful schools in the district with so much potential. And unfortunately, it is based in the heart of 53206. And we know that that zip code has the highest incarceration rates, significantly high unemployment rates, housing disparities, mental health disparities. And so one of the reasons for this proposal and really focusing on the North Division School is because it needs more attention. It needs more investment. It needs revitalization and not privatization. And understanding the workforce or labor market trends in the growing sectors here in Wisconsin, understanding that manufacturing and construction is amongst those that are rapidly growing. I think it's an opportunity to really bring programming and resources to the immediate families and students in that community. I know that it is a part of the 53206 initiative that our current superintendent proposed, and the goal is to really create a feeder model that students have a quality opportunity or a quality option in secondary education. The other part of it is with the community school model, the community school model is to transform schools into places where students and families and staff and the community can work together towards a common goal, which one of the goals is student success. And part of the strategies is to really demonstrate collaboration and collective action that correlates with the shared vision and priorities of community partners, initiatives, and policies. So that's just in a nutshell some of the reason or the motivation behind wanting to put that funding into North Division and really focusing on that. And I think there's a lot of opportunity there. We have a lot of potential, though potential isn't good enough, but it's there. And I think this is a start. It's not the answer to all of the problems, but I think it's a start in the right direction and to really speak to the community school model and the 53206 initiative.
Thank you for those comments. Administration, would you like to provide any comments, please?
Yes, Chair O'Halloran and members of the board, regarding to Amendment 4 pertaining to the reallocation funds from that's associated with the Phyllis Wheatley building. I would like Martha Kreisman to provide an overview, and we will be happy to answer any questions you may have. The team is here, after which we'll be able to answer questions. Martha?
Chair O'Halloran, Director Carr, members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. The sale of the Wheatley building included two parts. One was the sale where we received, so right now we have about $110,000 from that sale. And there was also a donation agreement of $350,000. And that's going to be spread across some years. So we already received $35,000 of that $350,000 donation agreement. So what would be available as far as funding is $460,740. There was a resolution that was approved July 16th that the funding would be used for schools in District 4 and to support the 53206 initiative. The money has been set up as a grant so that we can have it in a special project so that we can know how it's spent and what it's used for. So, and that's our response from the administration.
Thank you, administration. Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? Oh, Director Carr?
I just want to say more comment, but I am very appreciative to the superintendent and the administration for the 53206 initiative. And yeah, I'm just appreciative, and I think it's time to really get the ball going and move with even more urgency. And this is a perfect opportunity to get that going.
Thank you, Director Carr. I saw Director Peterson's hand, and then Director Gokul-Gandhi, Director Garcia, Director Herndon. So we'll start with Director Peterson, please.
Thank you. I definitely support initiatives to improve North Division High School. I know that we're trying to increase the attendance there, and this may very well be one way to do that. My concern is I heard the resolution read that was passed by the board in July of last year, I guess it was. It talked about giving the money to schools, plural, and I'm just hoping that the other schools understand that this is for the good of the greater good, and not having, I hope they haven't planned on spending the money. I guess a question to the administration is, has there been any conversation about the use of those funds with other schools? And could this lead to some disappointment?
Administration.
Chair O'Halloran, members of the board, one of the things that I can say is that there were a number of principals on the 53206, a number of principals in that particular district that was a part of the process, to get this moving forward. As far as the district, as far as our understanding now, we have not submitted anything out to schools to say, this is your amount. But the team that was a part of 53206 and District 4 that worked with the previous director to make that happen. That group of individuals are very much aware. But as far as the district, we have not sent out anything that we can speak of right now.
Okay, thank you. Director Gokul Gandhi. Or actually, Director Carr, would you like to make a comment before Director as to that question? Was that?
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the things I was going to say, and one of the reasons also for the focus solely on North Division is because in the beginning when the 532, and correct me if I'm wrong, which I may very well be wrong, but initially when the plan was rolled out, the plan was to hire a consultant to begin the process of re-envisioning North Division as a school that would serve as a feeder. And so that's very important, especially as we're looking at like secondary options, and the secondary or high school options being that last stop before students are transitioning into the real world. And so that was the other part of my thinking behind this. But I know that other schools in the plan were allocated funding and had a more specific and strategic plan that was ready for implementation. But North Division was the school that was more so not left to hang, but it was more so a school that we were still trying to figure it out. And so it was a plan to hire the consultant. And so I, again, wanted to create some action steps and get this going, if that makes sense.
Sure does. Thank you so much. Director Gokul Gandhi.
Yeah, two quick questions, Chair O'Halloran, and can I direct them at Director Carr? Is that possible?
You can direct them to the chair, and then I will
sure
determine the best way to have them answer.
Great. So the first question I have is, Director Carr, I really appreciate that you mentioned the community schools model and acknowledging that North Division is a community school. Would you be willing, one, to maybe allocate some of these funds specifically to the community schools initiative at that school to fund whether it's professional development, anti-racist training, restorative justice, whatever it might be under that umbrella? And secondly, would you be willing in the couple weeks that we have to maybe do a survey and see if any other schools were planning on using any of these funds, just to make sure that we don't leave any schools in a windfall? So those are my two questions for Director Carr. Chair O'Halloran.
Thank you, Director Gokul Gandhi. Director Carr, would you like to respond?
Of course. I would support all of that. Like I said, this is just the start, and it's to really get launch that initiative and get things going. But the reality is North Division requires so much. And I think the community school model is an opportunity to engage the community in a way that is in alignment with the greater goal of achieving student success, and again, revitalizing North Division and not privatizing. And so I'm all in support of this community school model. Like I said, this is just the start. And then later we will find the funding, raise the funding, or engage key stakeholders in the community to invest in anti-racist curriculums, professional development, of course, restorative practices. Part of the community school model, I think the model is to focus on cultural relevancy, equity, and shared leadership. And so this is, again, a start, I think, in the right direction, and to really engage the community and implement that model.
Okay. Thank you so much. Director Garcia.
My question is more on the gathering information in regards to the donation for the amount of the $350,000. Considering that we've gotten 10% of that, if more information can be provided in terms of, what were the terms of that donation? When are we expecting to get that money? And this is just for me to think about ways that, especially as we're looking at a longer strategy to invest, particularly, in schools, that are on our priority list. Just gathering more information around, what that funding timeline looks like.
Administration, would you like to respond to that?
Chair O'Halloran, Director Garcia, members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. The donation agreement was for $35,000 and over a 10 equal monthly installments. And the first payment was on May 1st, 2021. So the final payment would be February 1st, 2022.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to go to Director Herndon. Did you have a question still?
Yes. My question was, let me bring it back up, is the fact that North Division in this particular instance with the shop classes and that is in pretty much the same position that many of the other schools have, where those trades were thrown to the wayside throughout the district at some point, and I don't know why. And I also know that the youth are asking for them as well. However, the $460,000 or $460,740. It says minor building modifications. Is that something that has already been explored? That would take that amount of money? That's one of the things I'd like to know. The other thing is, if we were to approve this and make this investment, where does that get us in terms of opening as well as being able to pay for staff? My past experience with North Division, and I have spent a lot of time there right up until the time that I was voted in to be on the board, was that the youth were asking for a lot of staffing, teachers, classes, and classes that we would necessarily think of in today's environment. They were asking for things like being taught how to write cursive and all of those type of things. So I agree with you that they are really in need of assistance there. But on the other hand, I'm just wondering if this $460,000 will achieve what we'd like to see it achieve versus opening up Pandora's box with a lot of expenses over and above what we're able to fund in order to bring that back. And that's a survey that I'd definitely be interested in seeing, because like I said, this isn't the only school where the students are requesting this. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Herndon. I guess administration, do you want to make comments, or Director Carr responding to have we explored this plan for the physical changes and then what it would leave, what would be left over for staffing purposes?
Halloran, members of the board, one of the things we have done some preliminary, I had a team to walk through out at the facility, and Sean Kane will walk us through what he found with that particular piece. I understand there was modifications, light modifications that's needed. And then on the question where Director Herndon asked about staffing, one of the reasons that the shop classes have shifted in the district was the idea of finding personnel to staff those shop classes was the reason why. So that's kind of where we went. And then we also moved to STEM labs. And so therefore, a lot of those shops got converted over. And I do agree that children and families and individuals that you run into will inquire about a shop class. So with that said, I'm going to have Sean Kane to kind of talk about what he found when going out to the school to take a look. Go ahead, Sean.
Thanks, Dr. Posley. Chair O'Halloran, members of the committee, Sean Kane, Interim Director for Facilities and Maintenance. I did have a chance to walk through North Division, and the wood shop area had adequate, I'd say, shop equipment that was in place. They had band saws, table saws, lathes, etc. They did seem to have 2 active welding labs as well. The metal shop had pretty good stocked equipment. It seemed the program wouldn't require too extensive remodeling per se. So if someone were to walk through, you could easily probably get an active CTE or shop class going at that facility in those spaces.
Thank you. Director Herndon, does that, is that responsive to your question? Do you need follow-up?
Just that Dr. Posley mentioned the difficulty in hiring staffing. Has there been an instance any place in the district? Probably Tech seems most likely because they're the only school that I'm aware of that has these type of programs. Was there difficulty or were they successful in hiring people to teach these trades?
Administration.
Chair O'Halloran, members of the board, I'm going to turn to Eric Radomski, Trade and Technical Education. Eric, go ahead.
Chair O'Halloran, members of the committee, Eric Radomski, Manager of Career and Technical Education. There hasn't been a construction teacher at North Division for some time, but that is definitely true. It's difficult to find trade and tech teachers, especially all career and tech ed teachers. Really, it's become a little bit more easy in the last 4 years or so with an alternative licensing program. But the fact is there's not a lot of students going to traditional 4-year college preparation programs to be career and technical education teachers. So it is difficult to find them.
Thank you. And then Director Carr.
Thank you. One of the things I will say, and again, just to build on and speak to the potential for community partnerships, this will be an opportunity again to engage with the community, specifically MATC, WRTP, Big Step, and so many other like community programs or community resources to really hone in on that and bring them in, developing those partnerships and creating what doesn't exist and filling that void specifically as it pertains to the staff that is needed to drive the programming. So again, lots of opportunities that we need to explore, and we won't know the answers until we actually do it. And I don't know if it's been done, but I am excited about the possibilities. The other thing I will say too, one of the things I forgot to answer to Director Gokul Gandhi, last point earlier, as far as the survey, we have already started to collect some data. I can share that with the committee and administration superintendent, and I'm more than willing to even tweak it a bit or revise it to capture more of what we're trying to analyze. But I will be more than happy to do that, in addition to surveying leaders of the other schools and students and families of the other school communities to determine what their thoughts or feelings are around this.
Thank you. I see Director Gokul Gandhi and then Vice Chair Leonard, and then I'm going to ask what the pleasure of the committee is with respect to this item. Director Gokul Gandhi?
Yes. Chair O'Halloran, has there been an analysis done of the schools within the MPS 53206 initiative? One, of what the school-based need is, and then what the equity kind of distribution of resources looks like, so that we can see, within that initiative, what are the schools, what is the need, and how great is that need? I think that would be helpful information. So I'm not sure if the administration has that or if that's something we can ask for, but I think that would be helpful for me.
Administration.
Chair O'Halloran, members of the board, that is, yes, we have conducted an analysis and we have looked at the things that's needed in the 53206 area. And that is one of the first thing that we did in the first year was to take an analysis of that. And then we combined some schools who, went from, we have a K-5 concept, we have 6 through 8 concept, K-8 concept, a true middle school 6 through 8 concept, and a high school concept, and looked at the needs that was in that particular area around student needs as well as school and building needs and those kinds of things to make sure that we had children. The ultimate goal was to for children to transition from school to school in that area, and North Division be the flagship high school. So yes, we have that information. We also will be coming to the board with a strategic plan. This next month, we'll be coming to kind of talk about the 53206 initiative and where we are with it.
Thank you for that. I think we all look forward to it. Vice Chair Leonard.
So this is more of a comment. I have been in contact with people from MATC and the Milwaukee Area Labor Coalition, and they have been asking where they can be involved with this kind of initiative. So I will contact them, and before we meet again, I'll make sure I give out information on exactly where they come with this. But they did look, we've talked on and off for about 2 months already. So it's actually an active relationship, and they want to be more involved in Milwaukee Public Schools. And this would probably be one of those initiatives that they may very well want to be with.
Okay, thank you. Seems like a natural fit. Director Taylor, and then we'll go to what the pleasure of the committee is.
Thank you, Chair O'Halloran. I just wanted to reiterate what Vice Chair Leonard said. Coming as a union background, I've talked with people in tech, and they have actually wanted to be more involved with MPS and expanded to more of the schools. So I'm also looking to what we can do in those collaborations and partnerships that will benefit our students greatly.
Thank you. So what is the pleasure of the committee with respect to this item?
I move we approve of this amendment.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, will the secretary please call the roll?
On Director Carr's motion to approve amendment number 4 to specify that proceeds from the sale of Wheatley be used to fund shop classes for wood, print, and electrical at North Division High School. On the motion as read into the record, Director Carr.
Aye.
Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
Director Simpson.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
Chair O'Halloran.
Aye.
That's 9 ayes. The motion passes.
Okay. Thank you. Madam Secretary, next amendment, please.
The next amendment is amendment number 6 by Director Peterson and co-sponsored by Director O'Halloran. And that is school psychologists be credited for outside experience that was not applied to phase 2 of the salary schedule placements of January 2020, and that all psychologists be properly placed in phase 3.
Director Peterson, would you like to make any comments, please?
Yes, thank you very much. On May 6th, you might recall, we had several psychologists testify at our public hearing and explain the difficulties of getting their credit for the years served. And there seemed to be a very strong argument on that part. So Director O'Halloran and I put together this budget. Put together the amendment, got the budget from the administration, and we encourage you to vote yes on this for the sake of strengthening the roles of our psychologists in our district.
Thank you, Director Peterson. At this time, I'm just going to forego any comments and just go directly to would the administration like to make any comments?
Yes, Chair O'Halloran and members of the board, regarding amendment number 6 pertaining to the school psychologist pay schedule, I would ask Martha Kreisman to provide an overview of the amendment, and after which we'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Martha?
Chair O'Halloran, Director Peterson, members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. The administration agrees with this amendment and feels that money already set aside for salary increases in the budget could absorb this cost, which is approximately $110,000.
Thank you for those comments. Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? Seeing none, what is the pleasure of the committee with respect to this item? Director Peterson.
I move that we adopt this amendment.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none. Oh, Secretary. Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
On Director Peterson's motion to approve amendment number 6 and co-sponsored by Director O'Halloran to specify that proceeds, wrong amendment, to specify that school psychologists be credited for outside experience that was not applied to phase 2 of the salary schedule placements, January 2020, and that all psychologists be properly placed in phase 3. On the motion as read into the record. Director Carr.
Aye.
Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
Director Simpson.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
And Chair O'Halloran.
Aye.
That's 9 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. What is the next amendment, please?
The next amendment is amendment number 7 by Director Gokul Gandhi. Is to strengthen and expand the BLMA office and work with Black and Latino youth. Funding to be used to fully advance the work and strategic goals as outlined in the strategic plan.
Director Gokul Gandhi, would you like to make comments, please?
Yes, Chair O'Halloran, Secretary Mann, thank you for that intent. Just a few quick rationale here. We really should be investing in our BLMA department. It's not only homegrown, but it has been demonstrated to be successful within our system in MPS by an external evaluator, which we all know can be difficult at times, and it also invests in the established and proven infrastructure and leadership rather than an external and unproven approach. And lastly, it leverages internal resources rather than spending dollars on duplicative contracts and external services. And so I would hope that everybody would support our homegrown talent here in MPS that's done an amazing job.
Thank you, Director Gokul Gandhi. Administration, would you like to make comments?
Yes, Chair O'Halloran and members of the board. Regarding amendment number 7 pertaining to the Black and Latino male achievement, I will ask Martha Kreisman to provide an overview of the amendment, including the administration's recommendation, and after which we'll be prepared to answer any questions that you have. Martha?
Chair O'Halloran and Director Gokul Gandhi, members of the committee, Martha Kreisman, Chief Financial Officer. This amendment is proposing to reduce the amount that's set aside in ESSER 2 for contracted services that pertain to the Black and Latino male achievement, and restructure it to hire 2 coordinators for the Department of Black and Latino male achievement, and also have a supply budget, or we call it Section 3, so it's other things than staff pay. And I just wanted to say that there are in the department right now, there is a director, a coordinator, and 2 planning assistants. And in the ESSER 2 budget, on page 10 of the budget detail, there was an additional coordinator added. So for next year then, if ESER 2, that plan is approved, there would be 2 coordinators, the director, and 2 planning assistants for next year. So adding these 2 more coordinators would make it 4 coordinators with the director and the 2 planning assistants. And I just wanted to make sure that you were all aware of that and if that was the intention.
Thank you. Director Gokul Gandhi, would you like to respond before we go to committee members?
Yes, that was the intention. Sorry, one more comment, Chair O'Halloran. There has been a ramp-up plan that the Black and Latino Male Achievement Program has delineated, and so this is in alignment and reflective of the scaling up that this department would need to do to ensure that we're meeting the needs of all of our young Black and brown men. And so this was done very deliberately and done in partnership with assessing the needs of what our kids currently need.
Thank you for those comments. Do other committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? I see Director Taylor, and then I see Director Peterson. Director Taylor?
Thank you, Chair O'Halloran, and thank you, Director Gokul Gandhi, for bringing this up. I am in full support. I was able to go to one of the events that BLM had with some of their students, and in the end, they did a ceremony. And just to see some of these students transform and talk about them from the beginning of entering this program to where they were and how very important it is to them speaks volumes to the work that we need to do. And that's something that needs to be continued to be highlighted within our district, within our community, especially when you're talking about Black and brown young men of color. And I won't go into statistics and data because it wouldn't be anything new that we don't already know. It may be a parent of 2 young boys. I'm always looking to see what we can do more as a school district to ensure that they have the opportunities and things that they need to be successful. So once again, thank you, Director Gandhi. Don't know if I can do this from the floor, but I would love to be added to this and continue with this great work. And thank you for BLMA.
Thank you, Director Gokul Gandhi. Before we move on, are you amenable to that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Madam Secretary, can you please note that? Thank you. Next, I have Director Peterson, then I see Director Steamson and Director Carr in that order. So Director Peterson.
Yes, I strongly support this this amendment, and I appreciate the clarification by the administration so that we know that there'll be a total of 7 people working in this program. And from what Director Gokul Gandhi said, that's in alignment with their strategic plan. And I can imagine that is needed. I had one question. One of the changes from the original amendment to the revised amendment is a sizable increase in Section 3, travel supplies and year-end summit. Is that also reflected in the strategic plan, or is there a reason that that doubled?
Director Gokul Gandhi, would you like to respond?
Yeah, so there's just a little bit of change. I'm hoping that the Office of Accountability can jump in here and help comment if I'm getting this wrong. But there was a slight actually decrease in the Section 3 budget for BLMA that moved to the creation of the Women, Gender Nonconforming, and LGBTQIA+ program. So it was actually a reduction, and this number that you're seeing, yes, is still consistent with the strategic plan. There has also been discussion that if we at a certain time find that this is a little bit more, we can move it into practices that reflect this. So again, anti-racist education, restorative justice, or then move it over to the women's program that we're trying to create. But if OAE could just comment on this, if I'm incorrect, that would be helpful.
Office of Accountability and Efficiency.
Thank you, Chair O'Halloran and Matt Jason, OAE. Yeah, the description provided by Director Gokul Gandhi is correct. The final line actually is this decrease. What you do see reflected is just the sum total of what was on 2 lines previously into 1 for Section 3, and that is an accurate recapture of what took place on that revision.
Perfect. Director Peterson, do you have any follow-up before we move on?
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, thank you. Then I have Director Steamson.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Director Gokul Gandhi for bringing this forward. And I really appreciate how she spoke to the fact that we're using kind of our homegrown talent to move this forward. And I think it's a great model for moving forward and an opportunity for us to look at other ways that we can make sure that we do that throughout the district. So just want to thank her for getting the ball rolling in that area.
Thank you so much. And then Director Carr, would you like to make comments or ask questions?
I just want to reiterate what everyone else has said. Thank you, Director Gokul Gandhi and the BLMA team for the amazing work that you all are doing. This as a priority in our district is up there with academic success and achievement. And it's about time we prioritize this and really give credit to where credit is due. And I'm excited about the progress, the advancement of BLMA work. So thank you.
All right. What is the pleasure of the committee with respect to this item then?
Chair O'Halloran, can I ask something really quickly?
I suppose.
Just hearing the support across the board for this and the need for this, I would ask if the board we could all sign on and have our names officially listed in passing this, just so that the community knows that the board is fully supportive of the work that the BLMA department is doing and that we intend to continue to support their work.
Madam Secretary, is that something we can do? Can we do this by thumbs up, or is that, how would you recommend we proceed?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, with the vote actually codifies the board members' support relative to this amendment, and that is a part of the official record. So if there were inquiry about the support for amendment number 7, it would be reflective in the vote.
Thank you. And then Chair O'Halloran, I move that based on the new information from administration, that we accept the revised, we make a motion to accept the revised amendment that I have submitted.
All right, Madam Secretary, did you get that? All
So
right.
noted.
Is there any further discussion at this time? Seeing none, will the Secretary please call the roll?
On Director Gokul Gandhi's amendment number 7, co-sponsored by Director Taylor, to strengthen and expand the BLMA office and work with the Black and Latino male youth, funding to be used to fully advance the work and strategic goals as outlined in the strategic plan. And this is moving approval of the revised amendment as attached to this item. Director Carr.
Aye.
Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
Director Simpson.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
And Chair O'Halloran.
Aye.
That's 9 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. What is the next amendment?
I'm sorry.
Administration, did you have your hand up?
Chair O'Halloran and members of the board, just want to make sure that we, is it a department or an office? It's a department. We voted on office. So if the record could reflect a department.
Madam Secretary, can you clarify that, please?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, so there is no BLMA office? There is no BLMA office? I don't know.
Is that the question, administration?
Yes.
Department. Chair O'Halloran, members of the board, that's correct, is a department.
Okay. Thank you so much. And so the record would reflect support to strengthen and expand the BLMA department.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for that clarification. I think we are on the same page now, I hope, and we can go to the next amendment, please.
The next amendment is amendment number 8 by Director Gokul Gandhi to create a program for women and the LGBTQIA plus students.
Yes. So, oh, sorry, Chair
That's
O'Halloran. I
okay.
got carried away. I'm so sorry.
I appreciate your enthusiasm. Would you like to make comments, Director Gokul Gandhi?
I would love to make comments. Again, this is modeled after the success of the BLMA model, right? So creation, piloting, and evaluation. And we can duplicate that model to serve an additional group of particularly young Black and Hispanic girls who we know have very similar needs to our boys and have been kind of left out of this programmatic element. And so I move that we take $1.2 billion of the contracted services that were supposed to be used for Becoming a Man and move it to a 3-year distribution to create a new department that will champion work for our young women, gender nonconforming students, and LGBTQIA plus students.
Thank you. Administration, would you like to make comments?
Yes, Chair O'Halloran and members of the board, regarding Amendment 8 pertaining to women and LGBTQIA programming, I would ask that Martha Kreisman provide an overview, and we will be more than happy to entertain any questions that you may have. Martha?
Chair O'Halloran and Director Gokul Gandhi, members of the committee. Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. This amendment eliminates along with the amendment prior, eliminates the contracted services for Becoming a Man and Working on Womanhood that was part of the ESSER 2 proposed supplement, and restructures the funding to hire personnel in the district to facilitate the work for starting a department that would be for women and LGBTIA plus programming. And in this way, the administration proposes, rather than having a director and a coordinator as proposed in this amendment, that it would be 2 coordinators. In this way, one could concentrate on the program for women and one for the program for LGBTQIA plus students. They both would report to the Director of Equity, Access, and Inclusion to align with work already started. The difference in cost from a director to a coordinator 3 could be put toward the Section 3 expenditures and thus kept in the program. And we're prepared to respond to any questions.
Thank you for those comments. Director Gokul Gandhi, would you like to respond?
I would like to respond. When we think about what the BLMA department has been able to achieve and the tailored programming and the creation of the pilots as well as the evaluation, I think we would be doing a great disservice to our students if we did not give this department the importance that it deserves with the talent attraction of a director, right? When we're thinking of work formation, I would, as a coordinator, would not be if I was a director of a program and then wanted to come and do this at our district, I would not take that seriously. And so when we think about what our youth deserve, they deserve a creation of a department and a director that has full concentration on creating a scope of work. So I respectfully disagree with the administration and hope that my colleagues consider the revised amendment that includes a director, a coordinator, and a planning assistant.
Thank you, Director Gokul Gandhi. Do other committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? I see Director Garcia's hand. Director Garcia?
Yes. So kind of looking at, the previous conversation in terms of the difference between an office, a program, could we just talk a little bit about what do we envision this being a department? How are we, kind of just aligning this to, the previous conversation?
I think Director Gokul Gandhi and administration would be good on this. Director Gokul Gandhi, do you want to start?
Yes. So Director Garcia, yes, this would be a department just similar to the Black and Latino Male Achievement Department. And the creation, the intent of this amendment is that the creation should be modeled after the BLMA department, including its startup design and current placement on the organizational chart for synergy in the work. So it should not be placed under, equity and access when the BLMA department is placed under Dr. Catrice Cotton, because then we would create a silo and then that would disrupt the work that would need to happen.
Thank you, Director Gokul Gandhi. Administration, do you want to respond to that question about the intent?
Chair O'Halloran, members of the board, one of the reasons that we made the recommendation that was made, and it was the idea of when we look at as far as the work that we are doing in equity, access, and inclusion, it totally aligns with the work that we're doing there. I understand that you want to have a department, but the other side of it that I look at is the idea around naming conventions. And when we name director there, and I'm even, one of the things that we thought about was also manager. But when it comes to naming conventions, directors have a number of people that report directly to them. And then also there is, a budget, a large budget that goes along and those kinds of things. So I'm just trying to make sure that we don't have, there's a number of managers in the organization that has a large scope of responsibility. And when we look at that, individuals will be looking at how do we move up to director level the comparison would be an office or a department where there is less of a reporting structure. And so I'm just trying to make sure that the decision that is put out there from the administration takes that in consideration. So I just it is my responsibility to make you aware of the possibilities. And so that is a possibility for others to ask for reclassifications as far as when it comes to the level of director. That was our only concern.
Thank you for that clarification. I'm going to go to Director Taylor, and then I'll come back to Director Gokul Gandhi.
Thank you, Chair O'Halloran, and I'm directing this to you, but I'm pretty much for Director Gokul Gandhi. Seeing as if BLMA, and I understand we're saying creating a different department, but I was thinking, would it also be a level off of the BLMA, but a level for the women in the LGBTIA? Make sure I'm getting all them letters in here. That's very similar. And so when I think about it and we say a whole total department, but we're going to mirror it off of a department we already have, I kind of think simultaneously, how can these departments kind of come together and have a level with the males versus the level with the women and the LGBTIA under kind of one olive branch? If you can understand what I'm saying, is that a possibility with this?
Dr. Gokul Gandhi.
Yes. So Chair O'Halloran, I would like to address Director Taylor, and then I would like to address Superintendent Posley and Administration's response. So Director Taylor, yes, the intent of this, the reason I would like to place this department in the same umbrella as the BLMA department is so that there is synergy in what they're doing and that there's not a siloed approach to the work, and that the director of this department could learn from the BLMA department and its creation and its pilot and its implementation and evaluation. So yes, I agree with you, but I do think it needs to be a separate department given the equity that we're talking about when we think about our young women, our LGBTQIA plus and gender nonconforming students. Superintendent Posley, I completely respect. Oh, sorry, Chair O'Halloran. Do I need to say something else?
Nope, we're good. Administration.
Oh, do I need to pause and wait for? Okay. I hear what you're saying, and I respect that, and I understand. I think there's two things. Doing this differently creating this department differently than the BLMA is an equity problem, and building a program from scratch needs a director. And for those existing people in our building, there is so much brilliance. I would love to see somebody internally who has been managing staff, who has been managing large budgets, be tapped to do this work, right? And so I think when we're thinking about the equity and we're thinking about what is being asked and what we are tasked, the work that is being tasked, this program does need a director.
Thank you. Do other committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? I see Director Herndon.
Do I have permission?
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Yes,
You didn't tell me to
sorry.
go ahead. I was waiting.
Yes.
I have a simple question about this discussion on director, and I don't want to keep us all night, but I do think that that's something that should be further discussed. That's an HR issue, and there's probably all sorts of rules and regulations along those lines, as well as the fact that although we've got this windfall of money, it's temporary. And I certainly feel that sometimes we may need to just step back and do a reassessment. And in this case of arguing about whether or not we should use the position director or whether we should not, I don't think that is a decision that should be made haphazardly. I think that that particular piece of the whole thing needs to be ironed out or removed from the rest of this for tonight for us to vote on it. But, revisit just that issue. That issue needs to be resolved.
Thank you for those comments. Director Gokul Gandhi, do you have any response or no?
Yeah, I mean, there's been precedent set with the Black and Latino Male Achievement Department of when when the department was created. There was a director of that department. I don't see why this would be any different. And there has been precedent set by that department, and so I would not feel comfortable revising this amendment without the guarantee that this department has a director and that we give this department the importance that it deserves. Again.
Thank you so much. And then I think Director Taylor, did you have a question or a comment?
No, just my follow-up was once again co-sponsorship. I've been asking for a department that is linked for our young ladies as well.
Director Gokul Gandhi, are you?
Absolutely, Director Taylor.
All right. Secretary, Madam Secretary, please note that.
So noted.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Okay. Director Herndon.
I just wanted to say I didn't realize that there was precedents already set with the BLMA. I didn't realize that, so I withdraw my comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much. What is the pleasure of the committee with respect to this item?
Chair O'Halloran, I move based on the new information to make a motion to approve my revised amendment.
Okay, is there any further discussion on the motion before us?
I second it.
Okay. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
On Director Gokul Gandhi's amendment number 8, co-sponsored by Director Taylor, to create a program for women and LGBTQIA plus students. Moving approval of the amendment number 8 as revised and attached to this item. Director Carr.
Aye.
Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
Director Simpson.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
And Chair O'Halloran.
Aye.
That's 9 ayes. The motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next amendment, please.
Madam Chair, that was the last amendment that we have on tonight's agenda.
Okay, do committee members wish to submit any other amendments at this time? Going once, twice? All right. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
Madam Chair, we have no additional items on tonight's agenda.
Okay. Before we adjourn, the chair will remind the board and the public that this committee is scheduled to meet again at 5:30 on May 25th, 2021. Board members who wish to submit additional amendments for consideration on the 25th should transmit them to the Office of Board Governance before noon tomorrow. Public testimony will be taken at this meeting. Additionally, the board is scheduled to take final action on the proposed FY22 budget at its regular meeting on May 27th, 2021. This meeting is scheduled to begin at 5:30 p.m. and will be held virtually. Although this will be a public meeting, as is customary, no public hearing will be given. Information about how to follow this meeting is found on the MPS broadcast page of our website. The chair would like to thank all of you who either addressed the board tonight or provided us with written comments. The board will continue to accept written comments on the proposed budget between now and our meeting on May 27th. Comments may be sent to Office of Board Governance, Central Services Building, Room 273, P.O. Box 2181, Milwaukee, Wisconsin 53201-2181, or emailed to governance@milwaukee.k12.wi.us, or faxed to 414-475-8071. The chair would also like to thank the superintendent and his staff, particularly the staff of the Financial Planning and Budget Services, for their hard work and many long hours devoted to developing a budget that will best serve our students and their families and our staff. Thank you all for your participation in this meeting and in the entire budget process to date. There being no further business before the committee, this meeting is adjourned. And I just want to remind everybody that vaccines are so widely available, and I hope that everybody is taking advantage of the many opportunities.